Welcome to the Dwayne Kerrigan podcast, and I'm your host, Dwayne Kerrigan. With 35 years in business and close to 30 ventures across 12 industries, I've seen a lot. Amid the celebrity allure of entrepreneurship, many exceptional entrepreneurs remain shadowed. Here, I team up with these hidden talents to unveil their challenges and successes. Dive in with me to unearth entrepreneurial gems, learn from our experiences, and get educated. Even the guys who have quote unquote made it, they're still struggling. They're still, they got other issues. Maybe they're not financial, but there's other issues.
Sure.
But I think if you're always growing your business, you always have these issues. And everybody thinks when you have a business, like, oh, it's like a straight trajectory for upward. And it's like, that's the farthest thing from it. Like, I can't even tell how many times I've almost gone bankrupt.
I always heard the analogy, you're always balancing a bearing on the top of a concave plate. And that's what you're always trying to do with your business, right? Because there's always economic changes. There's always global changes. There's always political changes. There's always things that are happening that can affect your business. So you've got to be on it all the time. You cannot take your eye off the ball.
Ever.
Yep.
Okay. So guys, that's where we started the podcast before we started the podcast. And we've done that before, but guys, I'm going to introduce, so I have Jason Castellan with me, and he's the co-founder CEO of Skyline Capital Management. He co-founded with his brother Marty and another guy named Jason.
Another Jason Ashdown.
Jason. Then, but they're in the real estate business. They have apartment REITs, industrial REITs, retail REITs. They have a clean energy fund. And you guys are focused on constantly new development. Commercial, energy, apartments, mortgages. But just to give you guys an idea, Jason's probably going to hate this because he's a super, not conservative, but flies under the radar. I'll give you a little backstory here in a second, but he's, they got a business that's about, 9 or 10 billion assets under management now.
Yep. Yeah.
And 1,000 employees. They're in about 150 plus Canadian communities. It's often been said that you say, like, we're not in the real estate business, we're in the people business. And they really focused on community roots and philanthropy. And as I was prepping for this, so Jason and I actually grew up in the same town together. We went to school together. We played minor league hockey together. I think we were on the same rugby team together with Mike Bonneville. You were on the rugby team, right?
Yeah. I didn't have a lot of time for rugby, but it was too tough for me. You guys are too tough.
Right. Yeah. Back then I was like 145 pounds. I wasn't tough. I blew over in the wind. But it's funny. Like I was prepping for this and, doing the research on you, in regards to the business and everything. And it's, the thing that popped into my head, and I know you're a hockey fan, but the thing that popped into my head when I was doing it, I was like, I feel like this is a Don Cherry, introduction here, where it's like, Don Cherry get on the mic and say to hockey fans, hey, this guy right here, he's a hometown boy made good. And, watch him stick handle this puck down the ice and score the goal. And, it's like, that's kind of what you remind me of is that guy who is, based in his roots, good hometown guy, gone out, done good, for yourself, for the community, for your family, for your friends. You've brought people up along the way. Like you epitomize, to me, the pinnacle of what this podcast represents is, how we get from, the bottom to the top, the journey along the way. If there is even ever a top, I don't actually think there is, so that's kind of like, that's the introduction, guys. Jason is just a real grassroots guy, with a ton of integrity and just, full honesty. And so I'm really looking forward to the conversation, because you guys have been through the gamut. And so, anyways, we had kind of already started. So
thanks for that, Dwayne. I appreciate that. It makes me a little uneasy hearing that, but it's nice to hear it too at the same time. So thank you for that. Well, and I know, coming from I think growing up in a small town Walkerton, you kind of, that gets ingrained in you from the beginning, where we don't grow up there full of ourselves or getting too ahead of ourselves. And I think it just sent probably us both on a really great path.
Yeah. Well, when you can't get too full of yourself when you got, cow shit on your boots on the weekends and you're working in the fields, on the farm and stuff like that. And
humble times.
So humble times. Yeah. And, I've had a lot of mentors. We talked about one of them even on the drive over here about, Harold and, just, he always used to say to me, he goes, anytime you can hire somebody from from a farming community or that we used to work in the farm, boy, oh boy, he goes, snap those guys up.
You might know this story better than I do, because I don't want to move on from Harold and miss that, but he was great. And Harold's wife, Rita, was really good friends of my mother. I think they were in the real estate business together in Walkerton. I know the one legendary story of Harold. Remember the Newstead, when wings were 5 cents a wing, and you used to go to Newstead to get, you'd order 150 wings and take them to go. And cause they were waste at the time. Well, I guess Harold went there one time, and rumor has it he hired a waitress from there, asked her if she wanted to get into the car business. She went in the car business, and I understand she went on to manage one of his stores. So,
that's, oh my God.
Yeah.
What's her name?
Guelph, yeah.
Yeah. She went down. She became a partner, actually.
Yeah. So he identified, and that has always stuck in my mind.
Sharon Dupuy.
That sounds right. Sounds right.
Yeah. It was Sharon.
So, so that just, for me, always stuck in my mind that, there's lots of people with all the right characters and the right qualities and the right traits that just maybe aren't in the right location at the right time. And she happened to be there, and with the person who recognized that. And I'm sure that was transformative for her life, to move on from there. And I think that I think you and I probably have lots of those experiences and lessons over the years that, we put them away and we use them later on in life. And that's one of them, was to always have an eye and an ear open for talent. May not be in the right position or might be not the right location at the time, but keep your eyes and ears open for it. And when you come across those people, those are the characteristics and qualities you want in your corner.
Yeah. And my comment back to that would be, the thing about Harold was, and I think there's some similarities between you and Harold in this, and in that he was, when you're not self-absorbed and you're aware of your surroundings and the people that you're interacting with, rather than Harold could have bought and sold anybody in that town. But he was so connected, with people, that he would see that. Whereas some other people, they might have that same interaction, but not connect at the same level. And that's kind of, you remind me of that. Like you're not self-absorbed, you're connected with who's around you. And
well, thank you. That's a great compliment, because I know Harold, definitely is a legend in Walkerton and is somebody that we all wanted to, follow and mentor after.
Yeah. And he was literally like a second father to me. He mentored me, and oh man, I could tell you, I wouldn't be the person I am if it wasn't for his influence. So
that's very nice.
Anyways. Yeah. So welcome to the show.
Yeah. Here we are.
So you know what, listen, while we're on the town of Walkerton, I mean, and guys, just for your understanding, like I think Walkerton had like 3,600 people in it when we were growing up. And it probably has like 3,700 in it now.
I think the sign says 4,600 now. 4,600 now. Yeah. Yeah.
And that was a long time ago. So it's small roots, small town, grassroots. But I mean, do you want to just kind of share a little bit about your story of like coming from the town and then how you got into real estate? And
yeah, well, I mean, when my parents divorced when I was 8 years old, and we ended up moving from the Hanover area to the south line of Walkerton. We rented a place for a while. My parents did, and my mom and my stepdad Wayne. We moved to the south line, which is the line south of Highway 4 that runs between Hanover and Walkerton. So at our laneway on our bicycles, you can go right into Walkerton or left into Hanover. And from there, it was pretty modest living out in the country. My brother Marty, we're very close, and we had a sister and a stepbrother. We lived out in the country and did all the farming jobs. It was I think really good character building stuff for us. Get off the bus, go pick stones for a couple hours, or get off the bus, do hay on the weekends, hay in the summer. Those were all good farming jobs, which I think instill really good work ethic and quality, opportunities for people. We did that, and hockey was our passion. We played hockey, in the driveway. We played hockey in Walkerton, and it was a great place to release that energy. And was that goal, to get out of Walkerton was to play hockey, and, every kid's dream to play in the NHL and chase that down. And that was a lot of fun. We had a lot of success. I was fortunate that my cohort of hockey teams were a good bunch of guys. Some guys went on to the OHL, and some guys, played some competitive hockey. So we won all Ontarios once in Bantam, and I have the banner actually hanging down in my barn, and yeah. It is cool. And just those memories, I think they shape us, and I think psychologists will tell you they are more impactful on us than we even know or understand. And I look back at the jobs I had in Walkerton, and the school, and the friends I made, and just the whole experience. It was really set a really good foundation for myself, and I can probably speak for Marty as well, as to where, what got us here today. Definitely trials, definitely tribulations, but I think those challenges are, we all will learn more from our challenges than we do from our successes. And so there was a lot of challenges, but a lot of good times along the way. We had a lot of fun.
So I'm curious, like, while we're talking about it in terms of competitive hockey, like, how much do you think competitive hockey kind of fueled you in business, and was there an impact, do you think? Or
it's everything. Like, hockey is I love hockey still more than anything.
Yeah.
I know you do. It's my game. I love it. And I'm still trying to play as competitively as I can. It just drives, I don't know what it is about it. But it was also, an opportunity to get out of Walkerton for me. I was at a young age, I played for the Blackhawks for the junior C team. And then I went and played in Owen Sound. Moved up there and got going, and I remember playing in that junior B loop was really good. There's lots of guys that went on to play in the NHL from that area and from that loop. Had I known then what it took to be an NHL player, I would have known that I didn't have the physical or the attributes that were maybe required to be that, but that didn't matter. It was still the internal drive and desire to do that I think has sharpened my pencil for what I apply to everything else. You train for free. You go out and you beat the crap out of yourself for free, and you do all that stuff to try to win, and you develop a real winning mentality and a really winning attitude that comes out of that. And I think once you've developed that, and you put that, stamp that on your heart, you take that with you for the rest of life. And being competitive at things is really good in business, and wanting to win where everybody else wins is very good for business as well. So, I still try to keep my pencil sharp by playing hockey, and wanting to win, and then running up the score, and doing what it takes to compete. And I think that's something that you got to keep sharp, and you got to keep working on it and honing it.
Is that still playing hockey? Like, do you feel like it's fueling your competitiveness at work as well still?
I do. I love it. I play quite a few times a week at the rink, and we arrange hockey games with the CBRE real estate guys, or with Collier's guys, or with the we missed it because of COVID, but we were supposed to have a game. I think Gord Dreger, our president of the retail fund at the time, was going to have the Sobeys guys come in, and we were going to play against them. So we have a real, a big enough company that we have enough hockey players that we can put a team together.
Yep.
It's co-ed, and we will play other teams, and and develop those bonds and develop those relationships that 10 years later, guys are still talking about the game we played 10 years ago at the barn and had a good time. And I think it can be used to build relationships as well. There's a bond that you have in the dressing room after a game. As you know, rugby teams get together. Well, the way we have our hockey set up is we all go into the same dressing room after, right, and we all hang out, and somebody just finished the last hour and a half beating the shit out of each other on. You got to sit beside them, and you got to get over it.
Yeah, that's right. right? Yeah.
And it's good. And that's what, sometimes you have to do that with business. You have to negotiate, and then you got to get over it.
And then you got to get over it because you got to get on with business.
I know. Growing up in Walkerton in the country with Marty, when we fought, it was the worst time because for about a half an hour, I had nobody to play with. Right. So we had to get over it. And so that we, so we could go back to playing soccer or doing whatever the hell we did when we were young. So
that's
so you're getting over stuff and playing sports and competitively gives you that, teaches you a lot about that side of life and the game as well. So getting over things and moving on.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That's interesting. I want to circle back to that actually, about with you and Marty. Do you want to give so you guys, you leave Walkerton, you're done your hockey, you go to Guelph, University of Guelph.
Yep.
And then you guys buy a house basically and rent it out to your friends.
Yeah, we our dad lived in Guelph at the time, and Dad had was with his partner at the time, Wendy. She's since passed, but she was a lovely lady. And Dad and Wendy had I have 2 half sisters, and when we moved to Guelph, we moved in with them. I hadn't lived with my dad or with Wendy ever, but my dad since we were 8 years old. So it was, I think, a bit of shock for us all. Dad helped us after a semester of living at the house there. Said, "Look, let's get a rental." So helped us get a rental. We bought a place on Cole Road for $123,000, and we moved. Marty and I basically lived in 2 rooms, and we rented out the other 3, and we lived there for nothing, and it was pretty cool at the time. So Dad's help kicking that off was really good for that. I have to say that we always had jobs in Walkerton because our mother would always make sure that we got to those jobs. So the work between the work ethic and putting this all together, I think, it was all part and parcel of what got us there. And then we said, okay, if we can do this, I started again playing hockey in Elora for senior hockey when my junior career was over. And I met a guy named Jeff Newman, who's still a very close friend of mine today. He's kind of like an older brother to me. He got us into real estate, got Marty and I into real estate, and helped us buy our second student rental. And going from a biological science degree at University of Guelph to getting your real estate license was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And then we bought a rental, and then we bought another rental, and then we started on our journey to buying student rentals in Guelph at that time. While we made the conversion from Marty was at least at management economics at University of Guelph. I was in a biological science degree. At least Marty was in the business side of things. And but getting our real estate license was really the thing that gave us access to to deals and opportunities as they came up. So we started using that leverage to buy, and we were our best clients because we were buying and using our commissions to roll them over to be the down payment with partners on houses, and we just went from that one student rental on Cole Road to 52 houses across Guelph. And we started taking care of those over the next several years. We had time on our hands, and we had lots of energy to go spend it. So that's what we did.
Okay. So I just want to, I'll share a very blip of part of my story. So I did kind of the similar thing. Went to college. I'm a college dropout actually, but I went to college. I did attend and then never showed up. Basically,
yeah.
But I did the same thing. I had a house. I bought a house. Had 7 bedrooms in it. Rented them out to 6 of my buddies. But I didn't go on to grow a real estate company with $9 billion assets under management. And so what's the difference? Like what happened? And I'm curious if this guy, Jeff Newman, that you mentioned, kind of took you on, you said he took you under his wing and taught you really. So was it like, what was it? What was the catalyst for you guys that, you have a bioscience degree, Marty's got an economics degree. Most people go off and they work for somebody or they, whatever, try to forge their way in where they spent their education. And all of a sudden you guys go off into real estate this is probably the early 90s, right? So, and then you get 52 houses, which I can only imagine. Like I've had some rentals. I hate them. I ditched those years and years and years and years ago. Cause I think I had 1, 2, 3, 4 with another buddy. And I went, oh my God, like everything is breaking all the time. You're getting phone calls and I can't even imagine what 52 separate houses would be. But where, like, well, I guess so. Even before you get to the 52 houses, but like, what drives that? What helped you along the way?
I don't think I can point to any one thing of what it was. We were always trying little ideas. When you're young, you're always looking for the next quick rich get rich scheme or whatever. Yeah. I think we all were part of one of those pyramids in Walkerton that they ever used to come out with every now and then. I was always the last guy in, so I never got my money out like the guy at the top did. And we were always looking for ways to try to get ahead. And so there was just we're going through university, we're trying different things, and then when we get introduced to this idea of real estate and the rental business, it was a great place to spend our energy, cutting grass, renting units, getting financing, fixing roofs, fixing leaky basements, pounding concrete to put in bathrooms. Like we were doing that, and then rip away, go put your suit back on, go show a house, and then come back, put your work clothes back on, and go back down to wiring. I think I first learned how to wire a three-way switch. I learned it the hard way. I got electrocuted about 11 times as I tried to figure it out. Like we were doing crazy things just to get these rentals ready for the next cycle for students as we add them to our portfolio. And we would have Taco Bell for lunch, supper, and midnight snack. And it was just something that we were doing and we were into, and taking breaks to go play hockey and then come back. And it was just to be honest with you, like anything that happened prior to being 25 was just a blur, because it was just so fast and so much going on, and we were hanging out and we were having a good time, but we were working, and it was just it's just a blur. And then I think we didn't have big expectations of, Marty and I didn't care if we drove a fancy car with fancy rims or anything like that. We have been modest and always been modest about that stuff. And so if we could just plow our next investment into the next rental, it was going to pay off in the future. And, we were, I guess, always those guys that ate their peas and carrots first and saved the meat and dessert for last, like you're supposed to. Putting, deferring for the future was something that we were always big on. Defer, take those cash flows, turn them back in. President's choice macaroni isn't that bad after all. And if that was, if we were going to keep eating that for the rest of our lives while we built this, we were okay with that.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things there. Like there's, on the moving the money, keeping it into the business, like there's a lot of people who like to go out, pimp the ride. Mm-hmm. Gotta have the nice car, gotta have the nice clothes, gotta, and I think there's a level of discipline. Where did you learn it? Was that a mentor that taught you how to do that? Was that just, living thrifty, like growing up thrifty? And
yeah, I think so. Like I know growing up in Walkerton, like I know my mom and my stepdad's combined income was like $25,000-$30,000 a year. It was not a crazy lifestyle. I don't know actually how my mom did it, like, and got us to hockey and got our, enrollment paid and did all those kind of things and ran us around. It was a busy time, and it was just, you knew that you get that investment put into you, you better see it through and you better live up to it. And you always had a job and you always did things like that. So I think it just kind of became who you were, and it got established at least early on enough that those material things, as we find out now, chasing those things, they don't necessarily make you happier, and sometimes they give you bigger headaches than what they take away. So that's just always been the pride of building something, and of accumulating, whether it's a score, whether it's another goal on the scoreboard, or whether it's another dollar in your bank account. It's just, they're just measuring items to measure how you're doing and how your success is. And I think just doing that and building and growing that has always been, I think, what's innately in us. And I honestly, Dwayne, I don't know. I don't think I can explain what that is.
Yeah, right.
It's hard to explain.
But I mean, well, yeah. I mean, I think maybe just the way you grew up, but there's just some things that, what Tiger Woods always used to say, it's better to be lucky than good.
Sure.
And you just adopt a philosophy and it works for you. And, but I mean, I'm curious, like when I look at, and I think this is probably, and this probably comes from me a little bit when I'm reflecting on it, but when I'd said, yeah, I had like, 3 or 4 properties, and then you guys go and do 52, but you mentioned like financing, like how did you in the beginning? And I think this is just important. The reason why I asked the question, I think it's important for the listener because there are so many people right now who have businesses, doesn't matter what the industry is, but they all require at some level at some time, some type of financing. And, in the early 90s, like I'm not thinking, I can't actually remember what the real estate market was like back then, but finding financing couldn't have been easy when you're just coming out of university and then you're rolling. Like, how long did it take you to get 52 houses?
Oh, we did that. It was like over 7 or 8 years.
Okay, well, that's pretty fast.
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
You go, 7 or 8 years, but that's like 8 houses a year, man.
I guess so. Yeah.
It's 7 or 8 houses a year.
Yeah, and Marty and I were the sweat, and we had partners who were the equity. Our dad was one of the equity players in it. We got some other guys from Walkerton who were very successful in their business. They were contributing capital to these rentals as on the growth side as well. So we were doing that. We did, I think we worked hard enough and we were out there. We were social enough too, to get out there. We met some really good mortgage brokers who would back us. And a mortgage broker, as much as you might hate paying their commission or their fee, they do a tremendous thing for you as showing you and broadcasting you across all the banks and knowing which ones are lending at the time and which ones are favorable in the student rental sector and which ones are not. And so we had some great, we were actually talking about one yesterday, like Kat McCrae was a great lady for us, helped us get a lot of financing. Wayne Kazbowski, Peter Baldasso at the banks. We would go to the banks directly and get loans with them. And once we established a really good relationship and trust, then they were willing to back us again and again. And we didn't necessarily have a lot of equity. So then Jeff Newman's father, Herb, introduced us to a couple of his buddies who would lend us second mortgage money. And that would also help get these close. So we get conventional financing from the bank and a second mortgage on those properties. And then we'd, put down a little bit of equity and we'd run like heck and make these razor thin margins. But for us, it was better to own it than to not. And, we started around 91, 92 buying these houses. Those of you who remember back then, we had just come off a major real estate crash and we were buying at the lows of the low. And we've basically rode a market since 91 all the way to today. But I say this a lot that if we'd have started buying in 88, we'd have been broke by 91 because we were looking at places that had recently sold in 88, 89 for 135, 140,000 bucks. We were picking them up for 105. We had no other economic savvy other than to say that sounds like a deal. So we would buy those. We'd again be able to get first mortgage financing, a second mortgage, put down 10%, and then away we go to growing that. And partners played a big role in that. We were developing a really good social safety network around us of people who would get behind us. They knew that we were going to go to work and do that. One of the second mortgage guys later on who helped us, Ben Thiessen, he said he was coming by a little apartment building that we had later on that he was lending money for, and he saw Marty jumping on the garbage bin to squash down the garbage to get another week out of it before, to save having a tipping fee, save a tipping fee.
Yep.
And he said at that moment, he converted all of his future investments with us from debt to equity because he wanted to share in the upside. And so it was, doing the right thing and really demonstrating your willingness to work and to work on behalf of your investments and your investors was, I think, part of that, which helped build the trust in us and build the reputation that we could carry forward to where we are today. So.
Okay, do you mind? I would love to spend a little bit of just time pulling out of your brain from your experience on this, because there's a couple of, like, to me, really significant nuggets inside of what you've kind of just said. And because financing, when you you talk to people, especially when they're starting out, small business, whatever, even medium-sized businesses, financing it's tough.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you guys probably didn't have like necessarily like read a book and then took the strategy of getting financing out of a book. Like I get a sense of, well, I kind of know what you guys were doing back then. And, we obviously not only did we grow up in the same town, but you worked with some of the guys that you hear the stories I snowmobile with guys that, so you hear like how you guys grinded it out in the beginning. And like, sometimes I think like, there's that book, and I don't know if you've heard of it, but from Tim Ferriss called The 4-Hour Workweek.
No,
it's like those kinds of like, and I've met Tim, and he's a great guy, and he's a super smart guy.
Probably sells a lot of books,
and he sells a lot of fucking books. But when I read, like, I just think to myself, like, that is not certainly not my lived experience, but it's not, I've had 100 interviews here now with, in this podcast. And I can tell you not one person on the podcast said, hey, this shit's been easy and I work 4 hours a week. Like nobody, it sells books, but I just think like, people have this unrealistic expectation of what a business is and what it requires. And
we've had guys work for us that said, oh, I've read this 4-hour work week. I don't think I want to try that. They don't work for us anymore. No, they don't. And that's a true story.
Yeah, really?
Yes, that's a true story.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, so financing, like you said a couple of things that I thought were really like trust, relationships. You talked about social network. Like if you were to just kind of reflect on it, because I really do think this is huge for people, because the plight of the small to medium-sized business person is that they get head down in the weeds of their business and they spend so much time operating. They don't, spend that time which I thought was really interesting that you say, like, in the size of your business is massive and you still are taking time out to play hockey. You're still pulling your head out of the weeds. You could get real weedy like 20 hours a day, I'm sure. And so you're still exercising some of these disciplines, but it sounds to me like you had these disciplines in the early days where you're building these relationships, you're going out, you're leading by example, like, but I don't want to put words like, what do you think if there was 5 strategies to that whole, kind of enclave of going out, finding people who are willing to invest in you, willing to invest in your business? What does it take?
Well, I tell this to any of the young people that I talk about is build your legend, build your own legend, be your own legend. And that means being more than just this singular, homogenous business person that doesn't have very interesting life stories to tell. So, the fact that playing hockey has taken me to different parts of the world and introduced me to people that are not in business and that don't do, the things that I do or that there's, huge walks of life that of people that I would never have met that are university professors that are, that work in government roles or the different areas that I would never intersect with had I not played hockey. So having that in my life, I think has been really broad on that. Doing things, trying things, getting yourself out there, having interesting hobbies, I think is very important for young people to be able to have things that you can talk about. Not everybody in the world is all the same. And just because people want to do business, they still want to talk about themselves and they want to talk about common interests you may have and things like that. So building that legend can mean a lot of things, that you should have going on outside of business to be interesting and be able to have conversations with people. So that was, I think that's key. Coming from a rural area and having, never owned a farm, didn't live on a farm, but worked at farms and understand that nature. I can connect with a lot of people on that front because of those experiences. And so those are things that, that just diversify your whole personality and your ability to have conversations with all different walks of life. And I think that's important, to be that and build your legend around that, as to who you are and what you are. Flying is another thing that has, that we both have in common. When you talk to somebody who flies, you can spend hours. Instant bond. You got it, right? Instant bond. So that goes across all other things too that you do in life, and having those and an instant bond and instant trust, as you said, right, in each other, because they know what kind of character it takes to do those different things, or who you are if you come from those backgrounds. So, building trust certainly was very important in the early days. Being able to sell an interesting story, an interesting value proposition for the company was important as well. And being able to deliver on those promises is, that's a daunting task. If you're going to put it out there and say it, you better live up to it.
Do you think, so if you're looking for financing, and you mentioned kind of two things, but sell yourself or be interesting, and then sell an interesting story. What do you think people buy first, the person or the story, in your experience of over the years?
We've always been a face-to-face business. We meet with our people we hire, or people we hang out with, people that are face-to-face. I think there's a lot goes on between even you and I looking at each other right now.
Yep.
There's tens and hundreds of thousands of years of hardwired cues and things that we're picking up from each other that we don't even know about, right? So I think that this relationship is important. It sure beats a two-dimensional Zoom call.
Yep.
And it's even better than being on a telephone or whatever. Like that's important. That's why this, work at the office and come to work atmosphere is very important. Real estate is a very relationship driven business, whether it's relationship with the vendors you're buying from, your people you work with, or the banks that you want to borrow from. I think that there's a lot comes from this face-to-face transaction. So I think it comes from the person. I think it has to come first, because then, that's where the fundamentals are. And then you can build the story around that. What am I interested in? What do I do? What can I do that, that can be symbiotic for both of us? Certainly in my case, and the doer and the investor relationship, putting that together and building Skyline. That's, I think it all really started on a face-to-face basis, because, Marty, Jay, and I, at one point, we were all hat, no cattle. We were big. We were selling us, trust us. And the people early on were the people, our family members and close friends, that were the ones that trusted us, that gave us the capital to do this, because they believed who we were. And then once you prove your story and you do that, now other people can come in and join you on your journey.
So a couple of thoughts to this. Is one, you're right. The face-to-face is huge. And I mean, we both have super busy schedules, but there's been, over the last few months, I feel like sometimes I've almost crossed the line in terms of texting you about getting together and stuff like that. But it was really, to me, really important to have this conversation with you face to face.
Yep.
Not only because, we grew up in the same town. So I was, excited to have you, to get together with you, person to person. And the story on how we reconnected a couple of years ago is hilarious. But anyways, so 100%, like there's more when you're face to face, it's versus a Zoom screen. It's and I do, probably over half my podcasts, on Zoom, but that's the world too. And there's logistics and
I understand.
And I'm not, I'm not a famous podcaster, so we don't have the funds to just fly people in. Right. So, but that's, so that's one, but the other, like this trust thing. So you kind of mentioned all hat, no cattle. Mm-hmm. Love that phrase. Mm-hmm. Story of my life. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of mentioned that, and the trust, and bringing people on that, the 4 F's, right? Friends, family, founders, and fools, mm-hmm. to raise capital from in the very mm-hmm. beginning. And so is there a time at the beginning where you guys have gone out, you access, money from friends and family, they trust you, they know you're going to work hard. Mm-hmm. But at one point in time where you and Marty looked at each other and went, holy fuck, this thing could go upside down at any moment. That's in the early days.
Yeah,
of course.
The early days. Yeah, we we believed wasn't a big wide circle at that time. Dad was again co-signing for mortgages. Another buddy, Dave Ottens, who was doing a successful business himself. He had good income, so he was one of our partners in some of those rentals. Him and his brother, and co-signing because he had the income stream. Again, we were the sweat. We were working together on that, and it just. You just kind of go through that, and you build that relationships, and you try to, you just continue to expand it out, and you try to grow from there. Financing is was a tough part of the business early on. Cause again, I remember a couple of times there were bankers looking down their nose at us and saying, why would I lend you money on this? Like, why would I do that? And it wasn't like we were going to get mortgages. It was easy. It was the help of a lot of people and a lot of that around it. So it was difficult to get that going. But once we got a rhythm, and once trust turns into performance, and then that you can use that, we would continue to gain confidence from that as well. And then it was, how do we scale this? 52 rentals have 52 lawns to cut, 52 roofs that leak, 52 furnaces that don't come on at the beginning of every heating season. If we could evolve this into a building, we could make a case to our investors. Okay, let's pull a bunch of investors and let's buy a 50-unit apartment building that has one roof, one lawn to cut. We can actually have paid staff on site 24/7 looking after it instead of us getting those calls. It was just an evolution into that, and I think as our confidence grew, that we could perform to what we thought was going to happen. And as it started to happen, investors started to follow us, and we were able to then scale that up to a bigger time. Listen, Dwayne, we're very fortunate, again, of the times. The market has for the last 20 years gone on a bull run, and we were buying at the right time. We should have bought a hell of a lot more in the 90s. We could have bought buildings for a song there. But it was a really good time to build a foundation in a rising tide. And we were, you say you got to be lucky to be good, and good to be lucky. We were definitely, luck was on our side through that time period, and has been. And now, as we've gone through a few things, COVID and some inflation peaks and some interest rate environments, we now have the experience behind us, and we have the base, and we have the equity, and we have the mitigating strategies in place to be able to look forward and prepare for those things that happen. We've gone through wars, we've gone through stock market crashes, we've gone through credit crisis meltdowns, we've gone through all these things, and all along the way, learning and bulletproofing our business, which then continues to build our confidence in the future and how we can continue to grow the company. So it's been an evolving process ever since. And I don't pretend that I know everything today, and I'm going to learn a lot more in the next 25 years of this business as well.
So, a couple of thoughts, and because we're going to get into what the markets are and where you guys are at now, but there's a couple of things in there that I just want to touch on, which I think is important too from some entrepreneurs' mindset, which is partnerships. It sounds to me like in the beginning, it was critical for you guys to have partners, especially equity partners that were, providing financing because you guys didn't have any, and, lacked funding and stuff like that. And I would probably say in the beginning years for me, I had this, concept that I needed to own all of it, or the majority of it, versus, and we do a lot more partnerships now. And they're amazing. We have some great partners. It's really helps you to scale. Any thought, do you think, would you guys even be where you are today if you didn't have that?
Well, I've always had a brother, and his bed in our little, room that we shared growing up was 2 feet away. And we used to lay at night and talk about how we were going to conquer the world. And at a young age, and then coming to university together, and we've always lived in rentals together. We renovated together. We did all that stuff. We dreamed together. I don't know how many nights we would sit up on the upper deck at 195 Liverpool, and we own that, and dream about the future and talk about where we were going to take this thing. And so having that sounding board was part of it. And then having, as we brought on more partners and that, like, there were days where you come into work and you feel like shit and you feel like defeated and you just don't know why you're going on, and having partners there to pick you up and to help carry you through when you're not always feeling good, and you can do the same for them, is important, because there's being an entrepreneur, there's more times you doubt yourself than you think what you got going on is right. So having that support around you has been great. Having partners, and I'll tell you now, having 6,000 independent investors with us that invest in our funds, there are definitely key people early on, and I can name probably about 10 of them that I would consult on a regular basis that built their own business and went through this, and they were also, would also give you the confidence when things felt terrible, or you weren't feeling great. They could empathize with you and walk you through that and sound off it. So I think I really had the fortunate experiences of being able to go to those people, go to my own partners, and go outside of that to investors to really, they made it through. They were successful. They see the other end for you when you're caught in the weeds. So they can help pull you through that with meaningful conversations and great advice. So that the partner thing, I wouldn't have a fraction of what I have today if it wouldn't be for partners. It's just, I think it's a multiplier effect. I think it's important. I get it why people want to do it alone. Some people are that way. I've just never been that way. Never grew up that way. Just having a brother since, we're only 16 months apart. So we've always been, each other's best friends. So it's, that's been somebody I've always had to lean on, and vice versa.
Yeah. I love the analogy though, like where you talk about, guys out there, like business sucks sometimes. Like it's like everybody paints this beautiful portrait of it or whatever, or this, it's like this epiphany or this place to be. And it's like, hey, and I love it. Like, don't get me wrong. It's given me every beautiful relationship I have in my life.
Yep.
And those are the most valuable things. And it's given me all the learning lessons, to grow and, try to be a better person, but holy shit, there's times where it's like, I think about it. I used to think about it a lot more often than I do now, not so much dependent on it from a, mental or emotional state, but you remember the movie Rocky, right? And we grew up on that, right? That's like,
we went out in the park, out in the schoolyard and all fought like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But like when he, I remember like he got knocked down by Apollo Creed and then he's just like, he looks up and he's just like, fuck, like one more round. Right. And it's like, I can't tell you how many times where I literally felt like, it's like, I'm down on my knees and it's like, okay, I just got to get up one more time.
That is actually, I just heard that from, I heard that saying that the one entrepreneur said that why they were successful, because I did something one more time than somebody else who quit before me. And it's that dogged perseverance. And, sometimes we've been down dead ends and we just kept going and going and going. And, you got to know when to stay down on the mat. And that's, but there are times when, you got it in you and you just don't feel great, but you got to get up and you got to do it. And that's definitely something that you, I know that feeling, and I know business sucks, but think of the trade-off. I think about that too, how fortunate we are. Cause like being an entrepreneur, building a business isn't for everybody, because it's 24/7. And if you want to be off and have your weekends off and you want to have your evenings off, that's a trade-off. And good for you if that's the way you want to, I say we all have work-life balance. Mine's 95/5. And if yours is 50/50, that's great for you too.
Yep.
So, but there's a trade-off for people that want that as well. They maybe don't have some of the things or experiences that you now have because of what your business has given you. So, I'm not going to say that it sucks. There's times when when it's been very, very trying, very difficult. But I think that's part of what we're suckers for pain too. I think we kind of like it.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we sit and whine about it, but
yeah, it's like, yeah, I kind of like the suffering. It helps me.
Yeah.
Kind of helps me understand that, okay, there's more. There's more in the tank.
You've heard of saying like type 2 fun, there's fun. Yay. Like on a roller coaster fun, but then there's type 2 fun of climbing a mountain or, going into the gauntlet for something that, for a battle, a business battle or a battle on the ice or something like that. Those butterflies aren't for fun. That's type 2 fun. And that's, I think, what drives us. And, I know we're whining about it, but really we bring it on ourselves.
No, 100%. No, you're 100% right. And I've never heard that type 2. So that's interesting. Thanks for sharing it. But I do, to your point earlier, and it just to get the train back on the tracks in terms of your experience, but you'd kind of said like you go from 52 houses to the apartment building. And I think that, to me, it's like, experience creates strategy. And so, once you kind of get these lessons and then you start to go, okay, now I can start to refine. And then like when you said earlier, hey, sometimes you got to know when to stay down on the mat. And I think that's so true. It's right. That's what the Japanese are known for in terms of like, hey, if there's a loser, cut it and move on, and don't sit and dwell on it. Just make the decision, move on, sure, and do what you got to do. But for you in terms of growing the business, and experience, strategy starting to replace experience, what'd that look like for you in regards to like leadership, strategy and growth, recruiting, hiring? Like, I want to throw a whole bunch at you at once, but if you want to pick one of those that kind of.
Well, I think this is where people stay the lone wolf in their business, is because they try to do it all, or they think they can do it all. And for us, we learned very quickly that there are people that do things better than you. You say, I always just say, and I still say, if I can do something what I think is 100% well, if I get somebody who does it 80% well, but I get 5 people to do it, I'm getting 400% output than what I would do for my 100, right? So, and then even putting that in a better light is that, wow, people don't just do things 80% as well as I do it. They do it 150% better than I do it. So by bringing them in, and so leveraging people, bringing on experts to be that. We talk about, our co-Walkertonian Mike Bonneville. Mike joined us from BMO. He was doing the Cooperators deal in 2008 when the Cooperators was selling their real estate assets. I called up BMO, finding out, because Cooperators was the first insurance company that insured my motorcycle when I was 16 years old. And when they came for sale and their assets were in Guelph primarily, we were going to buy them in 2008. Called BMO, and ends up Mike's on the deal. So Mike was brokering the deal for the Cooperators through the BMO side of things. And it was through that transaction we won the deal, and Mike, helped guide us through to get that deal. I was like, that's a guy we need on our team. And, Mike, through a lot of deliberation, because we were still a small company. We were still probably undercapitalized. But Mike took a chance and came and joined us. And I think, he's done an amazing job of leading a lot of acquisitions through company wide, and now more specifically in the industrial fund. That guy knows how to do deals better than I could ever do them. And, that was a hard thing when the realtors, your ego, the realtors they're calling me wanting the deals. Yeah. I can't do this. Call Mike. I had to defer those to Mike and try not to meddle, because I don't want to interfere with what his process was doing that. So being able to let go of that stuff and leverage off of people was what really, I think has helped the company grow and be successful, because we've got some really strong people in the company that do a lot of really amazing things. And if we're not growing and we're not expanding the company, I think I lose them. So we have to keep growing. We have to keep giving them an opportunity to shine and to propel and to be all that they can be in the business. So that I think has been one of the keys to our success. We could stop tomorrow. I mean, 10 billion. it's not lost on me when I say that. 9 billion of assets in our funds, and another $1 billion under construction of new build apartment buildings. That's like, could be mic drop and done deal. But we lose all our talent, because if you're not growing, what are they doing? They're now stagnant. They're not living to their potential. They're not helping grow the company. So it's, I think that's why we have a mandate to continue to grow, to continue to attract people, and to continue to expand upon the expertise of the people we already have.
In the early days, what, like, you use the example of Mike, and Mike's a smart guy. He's got a lot, and that's almost like when you tell that story, which I didn't know that was the story. I just figured, you guys knew each other from hometown, whatever. Didn't actually know that part of the story. And, what was for you? What was it? Was there difficulty in letting go of some of that stuff? And what did you have to kind of come to terms with in your own, whether it's your mind, your ego, your need for certainty, whatever it is? Like, how did you kind of get to that point where you're like, okay, I gotta sort this in my own brain here?
Well, there's parts of it. Like, I think there was a time when Marty, Jay Ashdown, and myself all took a turn being the accountant, and we're not accountants. We'd put the GL codes in the wrong debit or credit. So we got a bookkeeper, and she helped clean that stuff up for us. But then, we got to the size where we knew we needed expertise. And, so when Wayne Bird came along to be our CFO, and one of our partners today, knocks it out of the park. He's highly intelligent, gets the game, very outgoing, very great with investors. So like bringing on that expertise, that's a no-brainer. I'm not going to go back to school and get my accounting degree and become a CFO.
Right.
Same with when we decided to internalize legal. When we bought the cooperatives portfolio, they had internalized legal. He was going to be out of a job. This was a great time, because we're real estate. We're heavy into real estate at the time. We're always buying, selling, refinancing, corporate structure, REITs, all this stuff. Having internal general counsel was something. So we started, like, a lot of these were not out of, it was not taking away from what I was going to do. It was only augmenting in a specialized way the people that we needed to bring in. So for me, there has never been any worry or any sense of insecurity of giving that stuff away, because I've seen that it only makes us better. And even on the deal side, like in the areas where you did really well, like where you were like, I'm great. I'm good I can go up and sit with guys and talk and do, like, work on the deals and all that kind of stuff. But there's times I've been at a table with Mike negotiating a deal, and I felt like crawling under the table. He's been just pounding on these guys. Like, it just makes me feel uncomfortable. Right. So I'm like, but I love it. So I just sit there like, so it's great, like those guys do that, and that they can negotiate these deals. I've had guys say, "Oh, can you come to a meeting and don't bring Mike?" I'm like, "Well, I'm for sure bringing Mike now, right?" Because they're gonna, they're gonna take advantage. I want me to be the nice guy, and they'll win, and they'll get what they want and all that stuff. Because I've got my eyes on a bunch of different balls. I do love the deal side of things, but I really love, more than anything else, telling the Skyline story. I love our story, and I love all the stories within the story that got us here, and the relationships, and hearing from investors how they built their wealth and how they went through the trials and tribulations. Because I can learn from that, and I can take from that little things and little pitfalls that they had, and close those loopholes and close those issues, and make Skyline better because of it. So I love that side of the business. Doing the deals, that was fairly easy to give away to the guys. Now the guys in their own funds, they all do their own deals, and I have complete and utter trust that they run them properly, and they go through all the right steps and button down all the right loopholes and all the right risks. And we use our legal team. I think we've got 11 lawyers on staff and 22 legal team with our clerks and everything on staff.
Wow.
Because it's $9 billion worth of real estate.
Yeah. And that's all deal structuring, right? It's so it all needs to be papered.
Well, and then everything else that you don't even think of, like all the issues that come. Yeah. Slip and falls and all this kind of stuff that comes with it. we take care of that, and we try to be that duck on the water. You know, it looks like it's going nice and smooth, but the legs underneath are kicking like crazy, right? That we want to be duck on the water for the business, and just work hard behind the scenes and make sure that we're always doing right by the business.
So you start growing. So in just so kind of I have like an understanding, and then because I'm curious on how you guys start to structure this, for the listener. It's like, hey, we're all at different stages in our businesses. Some guys are at startup, and we have, like 60% of our listeners are from the US now. We have 20, I think it's 20 some odd percent, a little just under 25% that actually are listeners of, no, maybe it's 18% that are under the age of 26.
Oh, wow.
Like it's a crazy demographic. And so but we also have a lot of guys that are, have companies in and around the 10 million range or north of. So I just want to try to like kind of highlight the story. So you guys go in 8 years, you go to 52 homes, then you get into the apartment.
Mm-hmm.
And then how long after that did you buy cooperatives? Because that seemed like, was that the next level up for you guys?
Yep. Yeah. Well, we had through 1999, we started syndicating. We had this model that was given to us in 1996 at a lunch. It showed us how to syndicate apartment deals, like create a corporation, create a share structure, have investors invest in it. And this was a formal way of us leveraging investors to buy into an apartment building, a 15-unit apartment building. So we did this structure. That was Skyline Equities. And then we had equities 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We started creating these different apartment holdings. And we had 16 of them by 2005. So we had accumulated about $27 million worth of investor equity. Like that's a lot of, talking to a lot of people, getting checks for I think our first check was $3,000. And by that time we were able to get people to write $1 million checks to invest at the time. 27 million of equity, 83 million worth of real estate amongst these syndications. That was allowing us to get leverage to buy more assets. But now the way that we structured it was not very efficient. We had 16 AGMs, 16 meetings, 16 different groups of shareholders.
Right.
Two buildings across from each other bought at different times in different syndicates. You can't leverage one against the other. You can't, commingle funds. We had to keep them separate. It just wasn't working. So that's when we started researching this REIT structure. And that's when Wayne Berger, who was our CFO, came on in 2005. Helped structure us to launch the Skyline Apartment REIT, which today is a $5.2 billion entity from 83 million, where we balled up these syndications and used that as the lily pad to start our REIT structure. So it evolved over time. We were honing our property management skills, getting that already. And then when we rolled this into a REIT, now we were efficient again on a corporate level. And we could use those economies of the property levels to just grow this thing open-endedly forever now. So evolving through that was the kind of, going from single-handedly owning these houses to this syndicate model, which we saw investor money could really help propel us to buy more, to then put it into this fund to grow. We're just constantly evolving the business through time, and then hiving off industrial from the retail or from the apartment, and then hiving off into a retail fund, and then clean energy that was on the roofs of all our apartment buildings, these solar funds, hiving that off to its own fund. It's just a constant evolution of business. And again, having great help, great people behind it, great resources, and just a hunger to grow and a hunger to be successful.
There's no doubt you guys got hunger.
Yeah.
So when you guys, you must have been like, the road shows for investment must have been constant. Like,
I remember being out Western Canada, and I felt like a rock star, only for the part that I didn't know what city I was in one night. Like, I was just in front of investors. I couldn't remember, was I in Medicine Hat or Lethbridge? And that was, what the rocker goes, "Hello, Lethbridge," right? And So it was. I didn't do that in front of myself, but I felt that was the closest I ever felt to a rock star, was that I didn't remember what city I was in.
Really? Eh?
Yeah, we were doing road shows all in airplanes and meeting with investors. People would put together groups of investors, and And it was fun times. But it was like, I don't even know how we did it when I look back. I remember, we had a small family at the time, and the house was chaotic. So we had a little motorhome out back. I'd go out back and sit in the motorhome and dial investors, talk to people in Western Canada that were a couple hours behind us, because I could do that at nights, and go into the office and do webinars. And it was, we were all on the road, and it was very, very intense. And I look back now, and I don't know how we did it, or I don't know how it happened. It was just
necessity
is
the mother of all skill, right?
Yeah. It was just great. And it was great it was fun to do. And it really filled my tank to talk to these people, and it still does, and talk to investors. And when somebody writes you a check and hands it to you and puts their trust in you, that their money that they've worked really, really hard to earn, and they put that with you, let me tell you, man, that means a lot. And now you have a very, very large responsibility to perform when you do this with somebody. I'll look them eye to eye, and do that. So, I think our structure at the time of individual investors and sitting across kitchen tables and dining room tables and coffee tables, promoting Skyline, really, really drives home the responsibility that you bear. And I think that's also been a part of our success, even though now we're evolving to more going through the dealer networks and more into more institutional money. Because if we're going to continue to grow, that's just the natural way we're going to go. We're not abandoning we're going to continue to grow individual investors, but we are going to, if we're going to become, the next, Blackstone of Canada with our asset management skills, we're going to need to broaden where we get our capital from.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thanks very much for tuning in and listening to my conversation with Jason Castellan. What can you say? I've known this guy since we were in high school. It's an unbelievable story, and I hope you enjoyed it. And tune in next week for, more of the story and how he kind of grew this business, his leadership philosophy, what they're doing in the markets today, where he thinks the economy is going, where he thinks interest rates and real estate are going. And we talked a lot about how he evolved the business, how he himself in the business evolved, and his position. There's not many times you get to listen into a guy who has started literally from zero, and with no experience, no wealth background in his family, to build a business that's got $9 billion under management. So thanks very much for tuning in, guys. Hope you enjoy the second half next week. We appreciate you listening. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you being with us. If you found value in the show and know a friend or coworker who could benefit from this conversation, please share the link via text or on social media. Remember, each share creates a ripple effect of knowledge and inspiration. And if this podcast has supported you in any way, please support us by clicking the follow or subscribe button. It helps us to improve the delivery of top quality content moving forward.
The views, information, or opinions expressed by guests during the Dwayne Kerrigan podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Dwayne Kerrigan and his affiliates. Dwayne Kerrigan or the Dwayne Kerrigan podcast is not responsible for and does not verify the accuracy of any of the information contained in the podcast series. The primary purpose of this podcast is to educate and inform. Listeners are advised to consult with a qualified professional or specialist before making any decisions based on the content of this podcast.